Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, there are those with nothing but the skin on their back, 2 sticks in a string, and enough heart to be a hero. Welcome to Hawkeye Season 1, Episode 3. I am your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz. Oh my goodness. You had to go through 2 episodes to get here, but we got here.
Yeah, man.
And welcome to Echoes. After escaping a new threat, Clint and Kate join forces against an expanding criminal conspiracy. The executive story editor on this one is Katrina Mathewson. Tanner Breen is also an executive story editor. Let's see here. We got Bertie is our director. Oh, actually, okay, so as Bert and Bertie. So
right, I think there's 2 directors.
2 directors, Bert and Bertie. Okay. As you said, this was written by Katrina Mathewson and Tanner Bean as our written by credits. Created for television by Jonathan Igala Stanley Donheck. They get that Hawkeye created by credit. Tanner Bean, Katrina Mathewson, of course, are story editors. And the head writer, there's on top of it all, is Jonathan Igla, and our staff writer, hardest working woman in show business, Heather Quinn. And, yeah, this is a fun episode. Although it has been pointed out that there is a long period of time that passes between when they're captured at night and then when we come to them in the morning. Where basically, and it's kind of it's interesting, because at the end of last episode, we end, and it seems like Echo is all ready for them. And in this episode, we get, basically it's been several hours around the little ride of ponies, and that's that. But before this, we get our flashbacks for Echo's flashbacks, Echo's origin story. We know previously we got to see little baby Katie go from the Battle of New York to her modern day juvenile delinquency and vigilantism, and we get to see the similar growth of Maya here as a little deaf girl missing a leg but ready to kick some butt. And I liked that. Anyway, you know what? I don't want to talk too much because, Mozz, I think you have stuff to say.
No, I mean, I this episode really won me over. It felt like a Marvel property, finally. Mm-hmm. Right? Everything seemed like it had consequences. Things weighed something, and everybody brought their best. That car chase scene is so insanely fun. Insanely fun.
It is.
And even towards the end, they brought me around on Kate. That moment there at the end with her and Clint, where he can't hear, and she recognizes and helps him out. I don't know, she won me over in that moment. And I think the show did as well.
I mean, it's a well-built show. It's well-structured. What I will say is, like, one of and I really want to dive into a little bit of the pre-Maya backstory.
Okay.
Because there is this aspect, because we do see, because of course we see Uncle.
The actress playing her, is she actually deaf?
She's actually deaf. She is actually missing a foot.
Oh, wow.
Or has a foot attached.
CGI.
No. That's actually that
right.
She actually does, because the comic book character is just deaf. She has both her feet.
Ah.
But it had a really great actress who was deaf, but she also was missing a foot. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, and honestly, it makes for one of my favorite scenes in this when Hawkeye goes to hit her shin with the hockey stick, and it's like that's my metal shin,
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure when people like hit Wolverine's shins, it's like, no, that's adamantium. That doesn't cause problems for me. Oh, actually, Wolverine would still feel a lot of pain of that. Yeah, because he would be having his skin smashed against his adamantium bones.
Although the thought here also is, how like these Muay Thai fighters, they condition their shins by just repeated trauma, causing little micro fractures that heal over. So I wonder if that's either even possible with Wolverine, that it would heal too quickly, or B, that if it does form callous tissue or whatever, would those nerves actually ever die to the point where they can't feel pain anymore? Or would his healing factor be so great that you would never be able to dead those nerves?
Well, at least within the X-Men universe one, and I think this has been made true of the comics, with his constant popping out of the claws, which is that question, does it hurt? He says yes every single time. That every single time they're tearing through my skin when my claws come out, which is a very subtle thing there, because it also implies that he has this superpower, but that it's not well adapted.
Right, in the same way that Cap can't get drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the same way Wolverine's nerves probably can't be deadened.
Yeah, he always feels everything all the time, which would not be as much fun. What do you think of Uncle?
I didn't notice anything amiss initially, but then a friend of mine was saying, "Oh, I can't believe Kingpin was in the show." I was like, "Wait a second, there's been a new episode?" And he's like, "No." And then I was like, "Where was Kingpin?" And then he goes, "He was Uncle." And I was like, "Well, I got to go watch that again." And my friend goes, "It's the laugh that did it for me." And when I went back and listened to it, and I was like, "Oh, that's completely Vincent D'Onofrio."
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely 100%. I mean, I could be way wrong, but it felt in my heart like that was absolutely.
All could be. Yeah. I mean, exactly what it is. I mean, I'm still hoping we're going to get some Jebediah Stane reference by the end of this. That, like, yes, they were after the Watch, but not because Kingpin wanted the Watch. Some other big bad wanted the Watch. There's actually going to be multiple big bads in this. But one of the things that really strikes me in this, and it's a little ambiguous, but when we see Ronin killing the Tracksuit Mafia, and specifically Maya's dad, if you look, and if you go back and watch the earlier episodes, there is gold trim on the Ronin outfit. So when Grills is wearing it, it's a very comic accurate. It's got the gold embroidery on it. There's all this gold on it. Everyone says, oh, it's a black hood, black leather jumpsuit, black hood. But actually, when we see Ronin fighting in that one scene, there's no gold on his outfit, which actually makes me think that's not Ronin. That is someone taking out the Tracksuit Mafia expressly to, essentially restructure the gang and to blame the violence on Ronin.
Well, I mean, it is interesting. Somebody had the suit that was auctioning it off, right?
Well, no, but that is the original Ronin suit, because that's the one that was taken from Avengers Compound.
My thought was the other thing it could be is that Grills, being the fan of LARPing that he is, wanted to like bedazzle his new suit that he found, that he put the gold trim on.
No, but if you actually go back, you see that when when Kate first puts it on and has the gold on it.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. All right.
You know, and maybe one of those, like, you know, what was it, gold dress, blue dress, or white dress, blue,
fair enough, yeah.
kind of things where how the light hits it, you see it or you don't see it. And so it could still be that. And he does say that Ronan did come back and take out upper management of the tracksuits. But this is actually one of the things I find most interesting about that. When we see the original Tracksuit Mafia, they're all Latin American indigenous peoples. You know, they're all, Latinx, indigenous American group. Now they're all Russian. And that racial shifting in a street gang seems manufactured. That someone wanted this group to not be a Hispanic gang anymore and now move it to a Russian gang.
Or Russians are out here pretending to be the Tracksuit Mafia. But that's the weird thing, though. The tracksuits is a Russian thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
like, I think what it is they tried to weave Maya's story into the tracksuits. So, like, in the comics, the tracksuits, yes, they are a Russian gang. And so they have the Russian gang here. And actually, I think one of my favorite villains is in this that we don't realize yet. And I think that the big guy in the black tracksuit, I think that's supposed to be Mad Mountain Marco. He is a third tier Spider-Man villain.
Okay.
But he's basically just a big guy hopped up on, you know, whatever super soldier steroids they got.
Gotcha.
Because he was always a big guy, but then when the superheroes came up, he had to keep on upping his game. But he can never actually get to that point where he's as strong as the super types. So It's an interesting thing. But I do think it's just my own fan theory. I think he's supposed to be Man Mountain Marco. And I do think, as was stated recently by Kevin Feige, that Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil. I think we may get him in this. I think we may get Poindexter in this. I think that was Bullseye.
Poindexter, that was the cop in Jessica Jones, right?
Right. No, the Poindexter was the cop in the last season of Daredevil. Bullseye. Who
was the cop? Friday or something. His name was like from Jessica Jones, the one who took the serum.
Oh no, that was based off of Nuke's character. I'm trying to remember his name now. And actually, it was Simpson.
Simpson, that's right.
Simpson. Though they actually didn't make him the Nuke Simpson; they made him his brother. So they always played a little light with it. But I'm thinking actually and we know that Dexter had an association with Kingpin. Dexter, who became Bullseye and all that kind of stuff, and then dressed as a superhero to utilize that character's image to commit the crimes that Kingpin wanted him to commit. And that's the idea here. And so I think that parallel is very strong here. That Ronan didn't kill Maya's dad, but that actually the Kingpin had him killed, set him up to be killed, and it was probably Bullseye that was sent in dressed as Ronan.
Right. I can see Kingpin finding that very useful. If they put on this suit, nobody will think it's me.
Well, it's the idea that, you know, and if you also think about post-blip, you know, we don't know. So as an example, we don't even know if Kingpin got blipped. So it may have been Kingpin got blipped and then someone else took over his operations. Maybe his wife came in and then, you know, or some other person get this Russian mob influence into it. And then they were the ones that used a Bullseye for this, or some other structure. We don't know exactly what was done yet, but that's the question.
But I also kind of like it being Clint that did it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about that I like too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I do think because he does say that, you know, Ronan did hit upper management, it could be it, and it is your classic Fallout that, you know, lots of mobsters have kids, you know, and you you can be all mad about your family dying, but you're killing someone else's family. So, and that is always the complexities of the activity. I really like how the fight choreography goes off in this,
and the arrows.
Oh yes,
you get a bunch of really cool ones.
I do feel a lot in this that when Kate is having her fight and Hawkeye is fighting the rest of the Tracksuit Mafia, that has that very Iron Man 2 vibe when Happy Hogan is fighting the one Hydra agent and Natasha is fighting 6 Hydra agents.
Right.
And he holds his own. He's taking this guy out. He's fighting him hard, but meanwhile, Natasha's doing 6 at a time. And that's what we have with Clint here is he is hitting these people 6 at a time. Because he
no-look shot through the hand. That was amazing.
Yeah, well, you gotta love a no-look shot. That's always great, Yeah, it's really exciting. It's really fascinating how they do this. And then, they steal the Grand Marquis, rather than the Challenger, because he says, I'm not going to smash a Challenger. And, and you realize that Kate should not have, because first off, Kate even says, I don't know how to drive.
Right.
And you realize that if she had driven, they would have been dead. Because they only survived because, in addition to everything else, Clint is also a master stunt driver. This man put his time in the circus to good use. Probably hung out with Johnny Blaze at some point, learning all the tricks of that trade, too.
Yeah.
Really, when you think about it, Hawkeye is kind of really Marvel's Batman. Much more so that he's just Batman without money. He's, he traveled the world. He hung out with all these ne'er-do-wells. He learned all the skills you need to be the world's greatest at what you do. And
yeah, it's like, those shows that used to be on Channel 9 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon about the lone bounty hunter or something like Renegade or something. If you took a conglomeration of 10 of those shows' main characters, you'd get Hawkeye or his skill set, at least. Did I lose you?
Oh, I lost your there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was saying if you took 10 of those shows' main characters and combined them, you would get Hawkeye's skill sets. He has to be good at everything. I lost you.
But yeah, he is really good at what he does. And I love the trick arrows in this. That's the best part.
The Pym one was my favorite because as soon as he pulled it out, I was like, "Oh, that one's got lights coming out of it." I said, "Those look the letters." That says Pym. My first thought was, "Is he going to play with time somehow?" Or and then I forgot. It's just going to be making things big. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say. I don't think he wants to deal with time travel right now.
Right. That's true.
It's like he's kind of but I do like when he says that's too dangerous. And that it's the Pym arrow that he says, no, you cannot touch this. This is, but, what's interesting about that is just the idea that people have pointed this out, that this could be also one of our first hints at secret invasion.
How so?
Because Pym is not going to be just giving his tech to Hawkeye. So it's like, how did he get this Pym Tech arrow unless, we're dealing with a Skrull Hank Pym, which is what we had in the comics. So this idea that he's going to start, Pym starts equipping certain Avengers with tech to sort of earn their trust is also very against the, or you also have that possibility that maybe, in the quantum realm, that the Wasp was replaced by a Skrull.
Wow.
You never know. You never know what it could be.
Yeah.
And that was the one that went to the quantum realm. There's so many things. That's the thing about Secret Invasion. It can go so many levels deep. But
wow.
Yeah, the Pym Tech arrow is great. I like the putty arrow. I thought that was one of my favorites because it is a classic.
It started delving into the realm of just Benny Hill, a little bit.
Well, but it's also kind of a real trick arrow that, that kind of goop arrow that would sort of like get over someone and maybe restrain them a bit. That's actually super useful,
Yeah, I guess that's true. Could gum up the worst.
You have to use it in the right situation. You know?
Yeah.
That's always the problem. Is like, what's the actual situation? As we see with the suction cup arrow, where she's like, "What's that for? It's so useless." And he's like, "No, actually, if you need to suction cup do something," and that was clearly like some kind of super vacuum suction cup, because you say it does have like the blue lights in it, so that obviously it connects, and then it like creates this vacuum seal that can hold a person, on a train. At high speeds, and that's what's up with that. That's. I mean,
it could even be like some sort of weird nanotechnology that is so attractive or magnetic. Not magnetic, but it has some sort of like an atomic pull towards something.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could even have on that the little Spider-Man microfibers. Which is how like some animal, that they can stick to things because they actually have microfibers that sort of fit between the atoms in walls to give them that hyper stickiness. So and I do like the idea that also, and I think we're going to see this later, which is Hawkeye actually making his own arrows, and the idea that Hawkeye is in fact just a real brilliant guy too. That on top of everything else, I mean, I think we're going to get that Hawkeye is Batman thing by the end of this. And just this idea that he is a human level guy fighting gods, and that's cool.
And he's getting old.
That's cool, but he is getting old. It's hard. He's he's got his hearing aid. He's having a hard time with things. I did also like, and this is something else that I think feeds into the possibility that the Ronin that killed her father wasn't Hawkeye, because they make the point that Uncle doesn't want us going after Ronin. That Ronin's gone, we ignore it now. Ronin doesn't want, Uncle doesn't want you going on a revenge kick to find this Ronin. Because I think that's the reality, is that if you dig too deep, you're going to find out that Uncle is the one who sent that Ronin to kill her father. Because I get the feeling that there was a challenge of power, that there was a vacuum here, and that I think her dad was maybe rising too fast, and Kingpin saw that was a threat to him. So I think that's something that's going to be revealed in the next 3 episodes. We got 3 episodes to get all this stuff in.
Became Russian.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's really fascinating. I like also when we get at the end here, so after they make their daring escape, which
Batman
is exciting.
And Robin,
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's really well, and they do communicate. They work as a team together, which is something you got to give to Kate in this, is that she does fall into her team role, And again, it works out great because, like I said, if she had been the one who had to drive, it would not have worked out at all, because she would not have had the skills necessary for that great escape.
Right.
But she did have those skills to shoot arrows and shoot them well.
And his death banter is absolutely hilarious. When they're on the subway and he repeats what she says, he goes, "We should walk the dog. He's been cooped up all day." That was adorable.
Well, it also shows that they are actually thinking the same things. They actually are on the same wavelengths.
Yeah. They
actually are meshing as partners. And that's good. Because honestly, I think, I don't know if Clint needs a partner. I don't think he needs a replacement for Natasha. And I think that there's even this, I sort of forget what it was, but just some story about a guy who had his old dog that he loved for years. And then when his dog dies, he gets another big boxer to walk. But now it's like weird because now it's a young boxer again. And he's just being drug along by it. And it's like, a middle-aged guy with that, 20-year-old girlfriend, and it's like, you're not recapturing anything.
No, but maybe the way to look at it from his perspective is, if I want out, I got to leave something behind that can fill the void, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody is, maybe honestly that good and genuinely wants to, shouldn't it be my obligation to get them ready, just so I can feel comfortable leaving? I can sleep at night knowing, I did my part to put somebody else and to prepare somebody else to do that. So,
yeah, and I do hope that is where we get with this.
I think she's proven herself to him at this point.
Yeah, and he says, you're not wrong. You can call yourself one of the world's greatest archers. Although, again, just, the way he gets out of the tape, and then when he shoots the arrow to free her,
yeah,
and it's like goes right past Kazi's ear. That is beautiful as well. I mean, it's just, there's an artistry to all the choreography in this.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of it's done with CGI, obviously, but it's still beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. And I like the swordsman getting the drop on Clint.
Yeah. With his sword. With
his own sword, yes. Which is an interesting turn of events, I think. Both that the swordsman does have the skills to get the drop on Clint.
This is making me feel like I hope he's not a bad guy. Like, I feel like he's not a bad guy. I don't want him to end up being the bad guy.
No, I don't think he is. And I think he is. Let's put it this way. I think he's a bad guy.
Oh.
I don't think he's the bad guy. You know?
Fair enough. Because I'm starting to like the guy. I think he's cool.
Yeah, I think he is. He is a classic mid-tier villain,
Right.
He might even lead a gang at some point, but it was actually, if you ever listened to, this is a fun podcast if you're interested in it. It's The Wastelanders Hawkeye. And it's like set in that Old Man Logan universe.
Oh.
But it's like, this is what Hawkeye is doing in this current iteration of this universe. And there's this great scene with Fred Dukes, who was the Blob, and Maynard, I forget his last name, but the ringmaster of the Circus of Crime, the hypnotist, and they're talking about, like, we weren't Zemo, we weren't Doom, we weren't these grand super villains, we were criminals who did a job, and that, like, we were very good at it, and maybe we had a gang, or maybe we did these things, but none of us were ever trying to take over the world. None of us were ever trying to do that. That's not who we are. We are just circus performers, basically. And it's a really good, it's on Stitcher. It is free with ads, and highly recommend it to anyone that is interested in the Old Man series. That's actually they did Old Man Star-Lord in it, and they just did Old Man Hawkeye. I think they're going to do an Old Man Black Widow soon. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things in that Old Man universe. They didn't do an Old Man Logan. They did like 2 Logan series on Stitcher called The Marvels, and then they did a Marvels that was like the 1960s Marvels. And it was just like, Fantastic Four and Spider-Man.
Wow.
And it's like done from the perspective of all these characters sort of meeting up in their day-to-day life. And there's this question of this conspiracy about, did Reed Richards fake the Galactus attack? That's really fun. And then now they're doing the Old Man series. They did Old Man Star-Lord first, which was really enjoyable. And now they're doing Old Man Hawkeye. So I really like the Wastelanders, podcasts on Stitcher. So highly recommend it to anyone that's interested. Yeah. If you got time to listen to podcasts, it's a good way to spend your time. Just brilliantly acted, all of it, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, it's also interesting that when they look into Kazi, he's actually an employee or a client of Bishop Security.
Doesn't he work for something called Sloan something?
Yes, Sloan. I don't know what that refers to. Could be a deep cut, or it could just be some random set of words.
Probably a shell company for Kingpin.
Yeah, or Bishop, or that's the thing. It's like, we don't know exactly how close and this is the thing. You have Kingpin, you have Madame Gao, you have...
What was the name of that woman that Kingpin wanted to free? The woman who they finally had something to hold over him, the woman, the artist or something.
Oh, Vanessa.
Oh, it was Vanessa. It wasn't Sloane. Okay.
No, Vanessa was his wife.
Right.
Right. No, Vanessa was his wife. He worked closely with Madame Gao and, of course, Owsley. Although Owsley dies in that, but he does talk about his ne'er-do-well child, who is the ski jumper, and that's a reference to. And this is also one of these places where that is a place to introduce mutants, because of course the owl, who would be the son in this situation, was basically his mutant power is he can sort of glide. So as a ski jumper, he was really great because he could just sort of float when he jumps.
Above any obstacle.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. But but it's an interesting way, that's always the thing is we know mutants are coming. We know all these things are coming. We now know for a fact that Charlie Cox is coming.
Punisher,
and we can,
Liam Barenthal is Punisher too, right?
Well, that's not official yet, but you hope we're going to get that. We hope we're going to get, and this is this little deeper thing on this. I think all of the stuff we've had is going to get folded in. In fact, right. I actually think that we're going to get Phil Coulson back, but it's going to be the LMD Phil Coulson
I'll take it.
Yeah. In what do you call it? In Secret Invasion. Because that's the one thing the Skrulls can't mimic is a robot. Huh. And that's why we had that whole thing about, are you now or have you ever been a robot in Loki?
That's funny.
Because it's like, that's the one thing, like all organic things we can deal with, but if you're a robot, that's like this one thing that's going to be this thing that can't be replicated or duplicated.
Wow.
By an organic creature. That robots are always robots, organic creatures are always organic creatures. So it's interesting what we might get there, you know.
I wonder what it's going to mean for Spider-Man. Is there anything happening here that could have relevance in the movie?
Well, I mean, here's what I'll tell you. I will guarantee you we'll probably get it. Anything we get in this. So here's what I'm going to tell you. They're going to let something out in a Marvel branded property before they let it out in a Sony property. So, like, when you're waiting for... So, like if you're going to get Daredevil in No Way Home, you're going to get him first in Hawkeye. Or you're going to get Kingpin in Hawkeye. Or, you're going to get those things. And, of course, that comes out, like, next week. But there are 2 episodes between now and then. So we could get like a couple of interesting little things that when they show up in the Sony property, it's been like, well, this came out first.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to go see it on that Thursday at 3 p.m.
Well, good for you.
That's the only time where I had tickets. Everything else, that's crazy.
I got to find a place to get tickets for it. I still haven't gotten them yet because I'm reviewing it on the 19th. If you want to join in on that. On the Spider-Cast, that is something that I'm sure Phil would love to get your thoughts on it.
I hope it's good. I don't know.
I'm sure it will be. I do not expect to be disappointed. It's going to have Doc Ock in it.
Yeah, it's 2.5 hours.
That's going to be a long one.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to set up a lot of stuff. But anyway, so this was this movie. This was this show. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I really think that the story is coalescing nicely. I think that they have established enough of everybody's backstory now that as we move forward, it's only going to get more interesting over the next 3 episodes. And I think it's going to be interesting if we never get a big bad, that it just sort of gets to a point where we have some arcs and some movements, but we're never going to actually ever see what the real threat was, because that's for later.
Fair enough.
That from Clint's perspective, it's all about burying Ronin and possibly even passing on the Ronin identity to Maya. And that's going to be because she does wear the Ronin costume for a bit in the comics. That if she realizes that it wasn't Hawkeye who killed her.
Right, but that
family.
seems like a really weird stretch for her to like don the costume of the person who killed her father.
Unless it wasn't actually that, if it was only someone pretending to be Ronin.
Either way, that's the costume they wore when they did it. That's like a ooh.
Yeah. Well, again, but like I said, it's not the costume because I don't think there was the gold, the gold in the costume that whoever was doing it was killing with. So that's where it gets a little more complex. Yeah. It's like, was it someone just pretending to be Ronin expressly to use the myth of the Ronin to silence people? And then, and then it's like the Dread Pirate Roberts, And then she becomes the new Dread Pirate Roberts, and she is the new Ronin, and she is gonna take some names and team up with Daredevil. Because they actually have something that they work out together, because of course she is deaf and he is blind, and yada yada yada. It's interesting. I'm wondering if we're going to get Taskmaster in this at some point. Because of course Echo was supposed to have Taskmaster like powers.
Right.
And within all this structure, again, that would be a reason for the Russian mob to be suddenly coming into this. If after...
Not Kingpin himself?
Well, it could, and again, that's where it comes down to if Kingpin was blepped. If Kingpin got blepped, and then because remember, after Black Widow, you have her mom, who is really a powerhouse. You have her dad, who is a super soldier. And this idea of building up this power base by taking out the Ronin, by using the Ronin to take out people using Taskmaster as an assassin, to fight like Ronin. It's an interesting thing. You could spin that narrative into this too. If this ties back to that, especially because we are supposed to get Yelena Belova in this.
Right. That's right.
So there could be a lot more going on. We've got a lot to do in the next few episodes. But if people are going to do that, and they would like to talk to you about that, Mozz, how could they possibly find you?
Well, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
Wonderful. And just give me 1 second, because I'm looking for all that information. Because I saved it somewhere on my desktop, and now I can't find it anywhere.
link.tr.e.
Yeah. Because I thought I had it
/ something.
Yeah. So we'll have to add that in and post at some point. But hey, kids, if you want to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did. Oh, and of course, first off, if you go to linktr.ee / Capes and Lunatics. That's where you can find our Patreon. That's where you can find our links. You can find the phone number to call, which I don't remember. But if you do all that, you can support us on Patreon, because as Phil will be the first person to tell us, we're on our own now. We're lost in the wilderness. It is only Phil podcast Perich keeping this whole adventure alive, and hopefully we will continue to do that. Why don't you all write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter, as I like to tweet things when I feel like it, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. Avast ye, you filthy landlubbers. You come to the end of another adventure with me and me, Mozz, as we sail the briny Sargassus that is streaming content. Join us once again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.